The San Miguel Cemetery shimmered under the golden veil of twilight, the sun sinking slowly behind the hills, casting long shadows across the neatly lined graves. The air was still and heavy, as though holding its breath in reverence. A somber crowd, dressed in black and gray, stood gathered around a polished oak coffin, resting on a wooden platform. The scent of fresh flowers mixed with the earthy smell of turned soil. Silence ruled, broken only by the distant cooing of doves and the occasional muffled sob from the mourners. At the foot of the coffin sat Max, a large German shepherd with intelligent eyes and a silver-streaked muzzle that showed years of loyal service. He didn't move. His head rested on his paws, but his ears twitched at every sound. His body trembled, ever so slightly, as if he understood far more than any human thought possible. Whimpers escaped his throat, soft, sorrowful, aching. He had been with Carlos Fernandez through battles, pain, and recovery. And now here he was, beside the man who had meant the world to him, unable to accept this final goodbye. The priest, dressed in ceremonial robes, lifted his hands and began the service with solemn grace. His voice was gentle, reverent, echoing slightly against the surrounding trees. He spoke of Carlos as a man of valor and heart, a soldier who had not only fought on distant battlefields, but had also stood firm for truth and kindness in his community. His life had been a testament to honor and sacrifice, and the town of San Miguel was forever changed by his presence. A choked sob came from the front row. Isabel, Carlos's wife, clutched a handkerchief to her face, her shoulders trembling. Her son, Alejandro, barely 17, held her hand tightly. His face was pale, his eyes red from weeping. Yet there was something strange about their grief. It seemed rigid, rehearsed, like they were wearing masks, as though behind their tears something darker lingered, something unspoken. From the edge of the crowd, a weathered figure slowly stepped forward. Santiago Torres, a man in his late 60s, his once dark beard now gray and unkempt, removed his cap and held it to his chest. He had served beside Carlos, had fought through jungles and deserts with him, had saved and been saved by him. He cleared his throat and looked out at the crowd, his eyes filled with sorrow and suspicion. "I served with Carlos for years," he said, voice gravelly with emotion. "He was strong. He ran, he laughed, he trained with Max every morning. He didn't have a weak bone in his body. There was no illness, no warning. Men like him don't just fall over and die." The crowd stirred, heads turned. Murmurs began to spread. One of the villagers, a middle-aged woman who used to bring Carlos home empanadas every weekend, raised her voice, hesitant but firm. "I saw him just 2 days ago. He was healthy. How could he be gone so suddenly?" The silence that followed was heavier than before. It pressed down on the gathering like a thick fog. Some shifted uncomfortably, others exchanged anxious glances. Then, Mr. Esteban, the funeral director, stepped forward. He was immaculately dressed, as always, with his dark hair slicked back and a white flower pinned to his lapel. His face wore a calm, professional expression, but there was something off about the cold stillness in his eyes. "Please," he said, raising his hands as if calming a storm, "let's not turn this sacred moment into a circus. Carlos deserves peace, not suspicion. Let us honor his memory in silence." But even as he spoke, something disrupted the quiet. Max lifted his head sharply. His ears perked up. Then came a sound from his throat, a low, mournful howl that echoed through the cemetery like a cry from the depths of a broken heart. Max suddenly sprang to his feet and rushed to the coffin. His barking erupted, loud and frantic, catching everyone off guard. He clawed at the wood with wild desperation, his nails scraping furiously. He growled and barked, his body vibrating with urgency, as if trying to say something no human could understand. "What's going on with the dog?" someone asked, voice rising in fear. Max's behavior intensified. He clawed harder, his paws tearing at the lid. The crowd stepped back, alarmed. Then came a noise, a soft, rhythmic sound. Knock. Pause. Knock. A chill ran through everyone present. Conversations ceased. Even the priest froze. Isabel turned toward the coffin, her face ashen. Alejandro's knees buckled, and he fell to the ground, shaking. Esteban stepped forward quickly. "It's just muscle spasms," he said, voice sharp. "Sometimes the body, after death, reacts. It's nothing unusual." But then the knock came again, louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. Max went into a frenzy, biting and scratching, barking with a voice that sounded more like a scream. Santiago's face twisted in horror. "That's no spasm," he shouted. "Open the coffin, now!" The crowd was paralyzed, torn between disbelief and terror. Then Felipe, the local carpenter who had known Carlos since boyhood, strode forward with a crowbar. His face was pale but determined. "Step aside," he commanded. He jammed the crowbar beneath the lid, and with a groan of wood and metal, he pried it open. The crowd leaned forward, breathless. A pale, trembling hand reached upward. A piercing scream tore through the silence. Isabel fainted. Inside the coffin, Carlos lay gasping for breath, his chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. His eyes fluttered open, wild with confusion and terror. "I'm not dead," he rasped. Chaos erupted. People screamed, cried, backed away in panic. Santiago rushed to the coffin, helping Carlos sit up, wrapping him in his coat. Others called emergency services. But amidst the commotion, one man didn't move. Dr. Ricardo, the town physician. Santiago turned to him with fury burning in his eyes. "You signed his death certificate. You said he was dead. How?" Ricardo stammered, his hands shaking. I checked him. No pulse, no breath. I did what I was trained to do. He was gone." But Max knew the truth. He growled, deep and menacing, first at Ricardo, then at Esteban. His hackles rose. He stepped forward, staring at them with unwavering suspicion. Then a quiet voice emerged from the back. It was Marcos, a young man who worked at the funeral home. "I saw it," he whispered. "Ricardo injected Carlos with something, right before they sealed the coffin, a drug to slow his heart. Esteban told him to do it. They didn't even wait an hour before closing the lid." A shocked gasp swept through the crowd. Faces twisted in disbelief and rage. The police, already on the way, stormed the funeral home within the hour. In the building's basement, they discovered a hidden chamber filled with horrors, dozens of bodies with missing organs, refrigeration units, surgical tools, and a ledger of names. A black market organ trafficking ring had been operating for years, Esteban at its head, with Ricardo assisting. Esteban, realizing the end was near, grabbed a blade and lunged at Santiago. But before he could strike, Max flew through the air. He bit into Esteban's arm, knocking the weapon from his hand and pinning him to the ground until officers arrived. The trial drew national attention. Witnesses testified. Evidence mounted. Esteban and Ricardo were sentenced to life in prison, along with several accomplices. Carlos's testimony was clear, powerful, and emotional. "If not for Max," he said, "I would be buried in darkness, forgotten, dead, and the truth would have died with me." The town wept that day, not out of grief, but from gratitude. Months later, a statue was unveiled in San Miguel's central plaza. Cast in bronze, it depicted Max standing proud, one paw resting protectively on a soldier's boot. The plaque beneath read, to Max, loyal friend, fearless protector, and hero of San Miguel. Carlos, now recovered, stood beside it, hand resting on Max's head. "You didn't just save me," he said softly. "You saved the town. You saved the truth." Max barked once and wagged his tail. The sun dipped below the horizon, but the town of San Miguel stood tall, no longer cloaked in silence or fear, because loyalty, in the end, had triumphed, and the dead were no longer buried with their secrets. This powerful story teaches us that loyalty, courage, and truth have the power to bring even the darkest secrets to light. Max, a loyal dog, showed us that sometimes the purest hearts can sense what human eyes fail to see. His unwavering devotion saved not only his master's life, but also exposed a terrible injustice that would have remained hidden. It reminds us to never ignore our instincts when something feels wrong, to speak up, even when others try to silence us, and above all, to value the bonds of loyalty and love, because sometimes the greatest heroes come in the most unexpected forms. In the end, justice may take time, but truth always finds a way to rise.